It's time we're finally getting a chance to sit down and talk about a game that I've been super excited about, one that was going to be very hard to follow the hype, but yet did so. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing and making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, Max Pears. Absolute pleasure to be talking with you all here today, whether it be morning, evening, noon, or night. I hope you and your loved ones are well, and thank you very much for taking out the time to join me as we discuss God of War Ragnarok. Now, we spoke a lot about level design, primarily in terms of the crater in God of War, breaking down many aspects that was kind of a tease on the open world take by Sony Santa Monica, which was some incredible things in there. If you haven't seen that, there'll be a link in the description down below. And I really want to focus on that because the fact that it was so vast in terms of size and also missions that you were able to do.
But first, let's have a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is none other than me. What I've done, everyone, and I hope you're excited for this, is I've actually created a level design kind of store. What I've done in this store is put up different kinds of tips and tricks that you can find there, whether that be my actual ebook itself, to that of level design pamphlets focused on different things such as traversal, stealth, breaking into the industry, as well as different talks that I have done which you cannot find anywhere else other than on this store. So if you are looking to improve on your level design skills and processes, then check out the level design store, which will be down in the description below, where there'll be a link to find this. All you need to do is head over to gumroad.com/level design lobby. I hope you like what you see, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you, and now back to the show.
It really stood out, and listening to the interviews with the team members talking about how they had approached that one slightly different. I just thought it was such a fascinating one to take a look at. So now we're going to be a bit more general, talking about the overall game experience. I'd like to bring my brother on and talk about it as well, just simply because we're both big fans of the game, so we might do that a little bit later. He's not into the games industry or anything, but I think it's also important just to get a general player's point of view as well. Now with this, there's going to be a lot of kind of jumping back and forth. There's obviously going to be spoilers here, so if you don't want this game to be spoiled, I suggest go complete the game, then come back and let me know what you think as well. Write in the comments, email, reach out to me on Twitter. Would love to hear all your thoughts as well. So can I take it back to 2018 before getting into Ragnarok? I really loved God of War 2018. It honestly was some of the best level design that I'd ever been able to see in recent memories. God, their takes on how to guide player use loot was so incredible. I thought that, it really had shown, or should I say stood out, in terms of amazing level design and a lot to learn from the team. Obviously each game's very specific in what you're looking for, but overall some great elements to take away without a shadow of a doubt. The story is well something that I personally relate to, and seeing Kratos change and grow. I played the first three. I don't think I played Ghost of Sparta, but I think it's safe to say Kratos isn't exactly a relatable or likable character, to be honest. He's probably was my least favorite part of the games at the originals. Not the games were not bad, but hey, I didn't need someone who had just roid raged and just killed anything and everything just because, right? It just didn't appeal to me. That's just, again, my opinion. So seeing how they had transformed that, used very similar mechanics that was used in Last of Us. I know some of the developers on Last of Us went on to Sony Santa Monica to work on God of War as well, so obviously they're cross-pollination in terms of developers as well. And it blew me away, so I really was impressed, and I didn't know how they were going to really work with that of the sequel, right? Because it had done so well. So that there was a 94, which, wow, I didn't realize it was that high. I thought it was going to be 90, 91 kind of a territory. And then Ragnarok, oh, is bang on as well, 94 as well. Wow, that's quite quite crazy, because that actually, I think, kind of proves kind of where I wanted to go with it. Because I was seeing it get 10 out of 10s, right? And I was like, oh god. It impressed me because it did the same, similar when 2018 released. But I just thought, how can they do it, right? How can they match it? And I thought that's what it is. I've had friends of mine ask me, do you think it's better than 2018? And that's a really hard one to answer, because I don't, for me personally, I think I prefer 2018, not because Ragnarok is bad at all. I think it's just a more personal story. But man, they are just so good. And if someone say I prefer Ragnarok, I think it's still the right answer. They're so incredible, and for them to constantly just knock it out of the park like this is just a testament to their team, to their direction, and their focus on core. One of the things I think we spoke about was what the game director had said, which was all 8s eventually equal 10. And I really liked that approach of, if we bring everything up to an 8, eventually reviewers will have to give us a 10, because everything is that solid, that cohesive, and there is no weak link, right? So I thought that the planning around that, again, just from a development side, is fascinating to hear. I'd be interested to hear, because they talk about Corey's kind of development, but kind of more from the sideline. It seems that the first one very much wiped him out, and in terms of wanting to spend more time with his family and that. So I don't blame anyone on that. And yeah, like I said, these are kind of my first kind of ramblings for it. So let's go a little bit further into this. Now, the story itself, I find very fascinating, because I know there's a lot of people that I've seen talk about, oh, why are these characters acting this way? Especially in terms of Atreus, right? That he thinks he has to save the world. I found that very not likable of Atreus, but that's because I can remember thinking that same way as a teenager. Like, oh yeah, it's up to me, and it never is, right? There is always people around you, which I think is a great way to tie on with their support of AI, right? We're so used to it being Kratos and Atreus in the game, right? And when Atreus would go off or was away, Kratos would have still a companion with him, even in the end game. You have Freya with you as well. And for you to have that, I think, was a real element and testimony to show a few things. One, it showed growth in terms of Kratos, who now has friends and support system around him, that he's able to work with others, not just his own son, not just his family. He's able to trust them to assist him and have his back as they explore the world. I think it's also a great one to show the connection with these other characters in terms of how he speaks with Brock when they go off to create the new weapon, which we'll touch on a little bit later. And discussing character development moments between these characters, I think's great. It's similar that you had with Sindri and Atreus through their experience as well, which obviously makes the ending hit a little bit more. I will say though, this is again just it's not a bad thing. I think the funny thing is me and my brother always joked around that if they just communicated more, if they just had like a family therapy session, I think a lot of the problems and that could have been swerved around. It would not have been a fun game at all. But I just think it's a funny one to look at, right? Not because anything anyone has done is wrong, but just simply because of the fact that, hey, yeah, it's families, and that is always complicated when bringing up certain topics, right? And teenagers wanting to rebel, have their own phase, which is again normal and natural. I said, seeing that and seeing again we taking control of Atreus was such a fascinating one, because you don't necessarily feel like a badass and powerful. And I really liked that their philosophy when designing that as well was, you're still playing the side king, and seeing that there's still room for Atreus to grow versus Kratos, who is a general or was a general, has led armies before, fought his literal demons and actual demons, and seeing how Atreus still has a lot to grow. I think the best one to really show this is Kratos opens chests by just punching through them, and when Atreus tries it just really hurts his hand. And that again was showing the power dynamic. We are showing that they are still very different people in terms of that. I think one of the things I would like to see more is, I think it does more damage if you hit enemies with a bow versus shooting them. I would like to have seen, I feel more vulnerable attacking close quarters, but again, that's asking a lot from a team that's making I think I spent 50 hours, or 40 to 50 hours on that game, so I'm sure there's way more. I didn't 100% the game either. It still showed, again, some great choices, some great feelings represented in the gameplay, which I think is one of the biggest things that I think we could all learn from, is theming, tying in. Now, you're not always going to get that in terms of different games and genres, right? But it is so important to have a central theme, which is, for the 2018, loss and family dynamics. And this one's more about growth, right? It's about growing into yourself and respecting that growth, and also coming to terms that you're no longer needed in someone's life, right? Like, as we all grow, we spend less time with our parents, not because we don't love them, but because we've got our own ambitions, desires, goals to achieve, right? So having those central themes to play off and also show with the gameplay, I think is really, really important for that. The cinematography as well is always top notch, and I do wonder if we'll see more of the one takes. I would love to see what other elements there are to do. Like, I know there's cinematic techniques in terms of framing, angles, etc., but what can we do to really hone that into other games? I still think that's such an underutilized event for that. So yeah, the AI tying in with the narrative, tying in with growth of characters was fantastic. The next one I think we'll discuss then is the new weapon, the spear, right? The multiple claw spear, which at first I wasn't too sure if it was going to be something that I enjoyed, but wow, what a tough tough thing for those designers and animators and all those developers to make each mechanic, each one feel unique but also entertaining and worth playing through. I think the hardest part is choosing which ones to use. I know they force you in terms of certain enemies have certain weaknesses or certain health locks that you have to use against. But the other thing that I think, again, is really important to take away with this is their use of variety in each mechanic, right? These aren't just specific for combat. These aren't just specific for dealing damage. They're also used to traverse. They're also used to puzzle solve.
At Level Design Lobby, we believe everybody has a story to tell. Hobbyist or student, freelancer or veteran, we made it our mission to unite those who share our passion for creating and developing great games. Thanks to our generous Patreon backers, we've been able to do just that. So if you've already pledged your support, thank you. If not, you too can ensure the future of Level Design Lobby, helping us to create even more exciting content, collaborations, interviews, and much more. With awesome perks and rewards, whether you're a seasoned professional or just getting started, you're sure to find something for you. Want to share tips, tricks, and advice with passionate, like-minded developers? Our awesome community Discord has you covered. Fancy practicing your level design, creating strong portfolio content, and having fun? Then try our level design weekends. Or perhaps you want to individually discuss your work, hone your skills, or level up your career, then consider our one-on-one mentorships. If you share our vision, then go to patreon.com/Level Design Lobby for more information and to pledge your support. Thank you.
And that's always something that I think is worth asking questions about when you are designing. My mate Stu, Creative XP, we've had him on the show as well as recommended his channel. One of the things that he kept teaching me about designing mechanics when I was at Ubisoft was it's about depth, not breadth. And that's something that I've always tried to consider when working, right? And not every time have I achieved that, by the way. But you can see that clear as day within their thoughts, within their designs, that this is something that they have considered, right? This is something that they think, how do we make this useful in a variety of situations? And then forcing the player to switch, right? Like in Breath of the Wild, they force the player to switch their combat style by the durability of the weapons. In here, it's about different enemy types, as we're saying, and using best to figure that out, which does more damage to one enemy. And man, I mean, who knows if they do a sequel to make a trilogy of this? I have no idea. But what do you do, right? Because this is one of the next points I'd like to talk about with the level design, right? Is their design approach on making sure that the player could still use the Blades of Chaos, still had the Leviathan Axe, and still making sure the level designs were fresh in terms of use with all these abilities. And that's one of the things that I think that they've done really well is their pacing of their levels. As many of you know, I'm making a God of War themed level, and I was constantly going back playing and timing with a stopwatch. Okay, how many seconds is it before I go from one like gameplay element, whether that's a jump, freeze gear, vaulting, elements like that. We're not even just talking about combat, just mainly traversal. And they do use it quite a lot. I think it was on average of the levels that I played, and again, I wasn't timing everything. I wasn't timing it through all the games, but when I was playing through, was roughly between 10 to 15 seconds. There was obviously some shorter, some longer, but you can see how really important that was. And the other thing that they did, which was a technique that Manuel had taught me, it's in the second book on less design exploration, is you make sure that every time there is a change or interaction with the world, it's a different mechanic, right? It's not, hey, we've got two doors that you have to freeze the gear with, right? You have to use Chaos Blade, then Leviathan Axe, then just jump, then just climb. I say just, but what I'm getting to the point of is each challenge was a different type, so it made the area feel fresh. So that way it was, oh, okay, this is different. This is something I haven't done in a while. So again, you're making it feel very much like, oh, okay, it's not too repetitive. And you don't necessarily think about how kind of short that is between each interaction from running. Like I said, there are some longer moments where you just run just constantly without any interruption, and other times where you're switching between different elements. But that really did impress me, because as I'm designing my level, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm planning out almost the pacing of the beats. So I had to switch things around because they were too close to another, extend some out because maybe it wasn't, maybe it was too short, switch a puzzle around so again it feels slightly different, these sort of things, right? And wow, it really does spice up the level and make it feel a bit more there's more going on here, even if it is just running. And I think that, again, kudos to the LDs in pacing that out. Another thing that I thought they were really was a test to them experimenting. Now, I personally didn't use these, was in a lot of melee combat focused games, right? You make sure that the space is very empty. If you look at Witcher, you may have read, there's a great article with Rani, who was someone I've... let me try that again. From a great article from Rani, who is one of the directors and leads over at Ninja Theory, who I used to work with. And she raised a great point that you're trying to make sure that the combat is so interesting you don't necessarily distract with any environment around you. And they did that in God of War. But in Ragnarok, they tried a different element by having these environmental hazards that you could use. Now, we're all used to the red barrel in long-range shooters. But in this one, you had like tree barks, which you'd put your Leviathan axe in, freeze it, and then it explode. These bits of rubble, which you'd put your Chaos Blades in, twirl it around your head, and use it as a projectile. There were other elements like that. Now, I said I didn't necessarily use them that much, but I did like that they added them. I thought this was an interesting take, and seeing how... I would love to know if there was a results studies on how many people actually use this. But to me, it was a really bold choice, because these objects that you could hit yourself on take you out of the flow, and some objects said that I didn't necessarily even see or read, right? But they've tried this out, and I thought, wow, this is a cool take. I'm sure they're not the first to do it by any means, but as we said, there's ones in different regarding each weapon. They do different types of moves. It's not just, hey, here's just one thing. I think there's like 3 to 5 different forms that it takes. So again, incredible to see. Now, it is quite late here, so I'm going to wrap this one up. But the next time I want to get this, I'm going to try and get my brother on a call, and we'll talk about the story, because I think there's more to that than I've touched on here. We're trying to kind of more reflecting on the mechanics and the level design. So if you have enjoyed this, please do like, share, rate it. If you're listening through a podcast, 5 stars would be great. Leave a comment down below if the platform allows it. And if you do want to get in touch with me, you can do so on Twitter, which is @MaxPairs. If you want to email the show with any questions, please do email me at leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. And if you want to help support the show, please head over to patreon.com/leveldesignlobby. So thank you all very much. I hope you're enjoying the game as well. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you all next time.